We watched the default mode network go quiet on brain scan, and I felt my sense of self dissolve on a meditation cushion. They're the same event. In 2012, a neuroscientist called Robin Carhart-Harris put people in an fMRI scanner and gave them psilocybin intravenously. He was looking for fireworks, increased brain activity, more signal, more noise. But what he found was the opposite. The regions of the brain most associated with the sense of self went quiet. Not louder, but more silent. And the degree to which these regions went silent correlated directly with how much each person reported that their sense of I had dissolved. The study was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, one of the most prestigious journals in the world. And it confirmed something contemplatives have been saying for 2,500 years. The self you think you are is a construction. It can be temporarily, safely, and measurably taken apart. Today, I want to show you what the brain actually does when you disappear, not as a metaphor or philosophy. And then I want to tell you why I think it might be the most therapeutic thing a human brain can do. I need to tell you where I'm coming from so you understand why I hold both of these things at the same time. I'm a family medicine physician, 15 years in every corner of medicine. County hospital, the ER, street medicine, homeless populations. I've run a residency program, I've taught medical students and residents, worked in various countries and been exposed to different cultures, backgrounds, and belief systems. I've been in the room when people die and rooms where people are born, and most of the rooms in between. And I also participated in a 10-day silent Vipassana retreat. No phone, no reading, no eye contact, just me and the architecture of my own mind for 10 hours per day for roughly 9 days. On that cushion, around day 7, something happened that I didn't have language for at the time. The boundary between me and the room softened. It wasn't dramatic and I was not hallucinating. More like a wall I didn't know was there became transparent. The I that had been narrating the experience, the physician, the refugee, the father, the husband, went quiet. And what was left was just awareness, watching itself. Years later, when I read Carhart-Harris' study, I recognized what he was describing, not because I understood it intellectually, because I've been there. The same room, but I had entered through a different door. Now, let me walk you through what's actually happening in the brain, because this is where it gets interesting. Your brain has a network called the default mode network. You've heard me talk about it before. It activates when you're not doing anything in particular, when you're daydreaming, replaying a conversation, worrying about tomorrow, planning, regretting. It's the me network. It builds and maintains your narrative self, the running story of who you are. Two regions sit at the core of this network, the posterior cingulate cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex. Think of them as the architects of your identity. Every memory you file on their mind, every preference you think of as yours, every fear that feels like you, these regions built that. What Carhart-Harris' study found in 2012 was that psilocybin significantly decreases activity in exactly these regions. The DMN didn't just quiet down, its normal coordinated patterns collapsed. The architecture of selfhood, the scaffolding, came apart. And here's the part that changed how I think about consciousness. The participants didn't report terror, they reported relief. The dissolution of self wasn't experienced as death, it was experienced as freedom. Then in 2024, a team published a paper in Nature. Psilocybin desynchronizes the human brain. They found that the strongest functional connectivity changes were in the default mode network, and those changes were linked to the anterior hippocampus, the region involved in a sense of self, time, and space. The self, time, and space, all three loosened their grip simultaneously. This is what the Buddhists called anatta, no self, not the absence of experience, the absence of the experiencer. And it's measurable, it's reproducible, and it shows up on fMRI. I work with ketamine, different molecule, different receptor. Ketamine works through NMDA receptor antagonism. It disrupts the circuits that maintain your brain's predictive model of self. It's a different mechanism than psilocybin, but the downstream experience is very similar. The constructed self loosens. The narrative quiets, and something underneath becomes available. It's only the mind that labels a good and bad journey. The dissolution itself is neither good or bad. What the mind does with it afterwards, that's where the healing lives. And here is where my life folds right into the science the way I didn't plan. I spent decades building a self to survive. In the Netherlands, where kids told me to go back to my country, I learned to disappear in whatever the room needed. I changed my speech, my posture. My name felt like a liability. I became very good at being no one in particular. I've lived the involuntary version, the kind a child does to survive. Just the nervous system doing whatever it takes to get me to safety. The default mode network running a hypervigilant self-scan since before that child had words for it. And I've lived the voluntary version, on the cushion, in the clinic, around people that helped me and guided me, where that exhausted scanning system finally gets a break. So why would dissolving the self be healing? Think about what the default mode network actually does when it's overactive. It ruminates, it loops, it tells you stories about who you are that may not even be true anymore. See, the anxious person's DMN says, you are your anxiety. The depressed person's DMN says, you've always felt this way. And the traumatized person's DMN says, you're still at that checkpoint, still running. What psilocybin does, what ketamine does, what deep meditation does, is it interrupts the broadcast. Not permanently, not in a destructive way. The way you might pull a needle off of a record that's been skipping on the same groove for 30 years. The silence that follows is not empty. It's the first clear signal the brain has received in years. And in that silence, the brain does something extraordinary. It reorganizes. See, neuroplasticity surges. Connections that have been pruned and locked reform. The brain doesn't just return to baseline. In many people, it returns to a version of itself it hasn't had access to since before the trauma, before the groove was worn. This is why a single session of psilocybin-assisted therapy can produce effects that last months. Not because the drug stays in the system, it's gone in a couple of hours, but because the interruptions gave the brain a window, and the brain used it. Long-term meditators show similar patterns: reduced default mode activity, decreased emotional reactivity to the self-referential loops. The thoughts still come, the meditator still has a self, but the self sits lighter, like loose clothing you can take off and put on. That's the gift of ego dissolution. Not the self dies, that you finally see it was a construction. Useful, beautiful even, but not the whole of you, not even close. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the moment of dissolution as a clear light, not a void, a luminosity, as if the self was a lampshade and removing it doesn't create darkness. It reveals the light that was always there. I've felt it on a cushion. I've watched patients arrive there in the clinic and come back changed. They didn't become someone new, no, because they finally were able to let go of the conditioned self. We are living in a moment where the mystical and the measurable are converging. The meditators and the neuroscientists are looking at the same data. The contemplatives and the clinicians are describing the same event in different language. Ego dissolution is not a metaphor. It's not a hallucination. It's not something that happens only to monks and psychonauts. It is a capacity your brain already has, a state it already knows how to enter. We just forgot. And the reason it matters, the reason I keep coming back to this, is that the suffering most people carry is not in the world. It's the story the default mode network tells about the world and who you are, about what happened, about what will happen. Dissolve the story even for 20 minutes and something underneath breathes for the first time. You don't have to take psilocybin and you don't have to sit for 10 days in a retreat. But I want you to know that the boundary of yourself is not fixed as it feels. That you reading this, watching this, the narrator, is not the whole of you. There's something beneath the narrator, and it's been there the whole time. Quiet, patient, waiting for you to stop talking long enough to hear it. If this resonates, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I hope you keep noticing what notices.